Excellent. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Quiz the Guru session here in Portsmouth. It's the 1st of September 2016. I'm glad that everybody's stayed back this afternoon to get involved in this table discussion. To start with, I think we'll run along the panel and just get an intro from each person, briefly who they are, who they work for and what they do, and then we'll open the panel to the audience for some questions on pretty much anything other than product specifics, please. Thank you. Okay, we'll start off with Dan, if I may.
Yeah, I'm Dan Bishop, PELCO by Schneider Electric, Business Development Manager, looking after our Tier 1 partners, predominantly in the south of England.
Hi everyone, my name is Mike Gibson. I'm VP of Sales for Oncam. Oncam being a 360 video specialist company.
Hi, I'm Adam Moorhouse, Regional Manager from VMS. We specialise in visual management systems.
Hi, I'm Downie. I'm Sales Director for Visual Management Systems. And as Adam said, we run a software package.
Hello, my name is Adrian Kirk and I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts for 360 Vision Technology.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm Paul Hennings. I'm the Principal of the IP UserGroup and Editor of IP Focus magazine. Okay, well let's start off. Have we got any questions from the audience to kick off with? Or do I need to invent one?
Paul,
yes.
I've got to say, it's been very interesting meeting everyone today, listening and talking to people, and equally some of my knowledge has gone up as well from today. But talking to the groups of you, you've got very good products. I used to be in the Home Office on loan service from the Royal Air Force, and I got to know a lot of products. I'm now in the commercial world, after leaving the Royal Air Force, went Home Office, or rather civil servant, now private, and now I do teaching. And one of the biggest things of listening to all of you is you're all missing tricks to do with where do you get these wonderful products to, and how you can piggyback. Security is a good focal point within an organisation, but as I was alluding to you, and certainly one there said about the commercial sales of clothing, which was very good, but you can do a three-pronged. You've got your security, you've got your health and safety, and the commercial sales, depending on where you are, or your product manufacturing area. And you can take it that if you get into one, you'll capture the other, so you could have increased areas. But you need to get to the C-suite. C-suite has got the money. And if you get in there, and certainly with the security aspects, the person's normally got the ear of the CEO. But when you approach the security person, equally say, well look, we know the money is short, why don't we go for the various different areas and explain it to them? It's just something I feel that in discussion with you, maybe it's something you can take up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's probably a degree of lack of confidence in moving up, shall we say, the food chain for those sort of discussions, particularly for the incumbent. Let's run along the panel and see if they tend to agree with that.
It's a difficult one, and I think a lot of it is our interaction as a manufacturer, although we engage with end users, is predominantly through our integration partners. So we need to be educating them to be asking the right questions. I completely agree. I think, if you're looking at differentiating yourself as a manufacturer, you need to be able to offer a number of different problems, as you quite rightly said. So it's not just a security tool, it is a management tool, it can be a marketing tool. And that's why, certainly PELCO, we work with a couple of analytic partners who can provide things that are useful for marketing people, for instance. So whether that's people counting, whether that's trends or whatever. It's like, in any scenario, isn't it? If you educate the right people, then they can have that conversation. But unfortunately, we're also in a world where everything is commercially driven. We still come across projects where they're not interested in talking to other departments. This is my budget, and I want it to be as low as I possibly can do. So I think it's a bit of give and take from both ways. I know that, you know, I don't think any of us who sat here will be thinking, no, we don't want to have those conversations. But it's, like I said, it's education, and it's about the people who've got the purse strings.
Yeah, I'd agree on that. I do part-time teaching now of security worldwide, from your BTEC level 4 security surveys through to postgraduate diploma level, and then they go on to finish their masters. And one of the things there is we advocate is for security managers and future CSOs is to actually their ability to sell to C-suite. So if you get the ability to get into the security manager and bring on board them from the security manager to other aspects, you could be on a very good win, and your return on investment to the business, which again a lot of people miss on, is your return on investment is not just one pick of the cherry, you're getting 3 bites of the cherry.
I agree, and that's one of our approaches at the minute is to be getting closer to our partners. Something I mentioned about my job title is I look after a group of what we consider to be tier 1 partners. Those tier 1 partners are based on their competency, about their spend, that's part of it, how much they engage in training, how technical they are, and all these types of things. But once we're in with them, we get a relationship with their customers, the end users who are actually ultimately using these systems, then yeah, we can start having those conversations. But it is a difficult road sometimes.
Yeah, it's the ability to communicate, and the other aspects too is when you're doing it is to if you're selling the products and they're looking at it, is to bring in your operational requirements level 1, which is then bringing in your stakeholders. And your stakeholders there, you've got the security, you've got your commercial side, you've got the health and safety.
Completely right.
Bringing in a bigger package.
Completely right. We've got a VMS platform called Video Expert. Now I know we're not trying to talk specifically about a product, but what we're actively trying to do is work with third parties. We have it's called a plug-in architecture, so we're actively looking for partners who can go, well, you've got we'll use that people counting or heat map type scenario that might be used for marketing, so it's a different stakeholder. But by being able to take in that information and display it in one central location, you're right, it does become a more usable tool. But you still need to have those conversations, and also you need people to be open enough to want to have those conversations. And like you said, it's about education, and I don't know, hopefully we'll move down that route. But I've talked too much, I'll let the other guys answer.
If I can move it on to John actually, because the PSIM scenario that the Titan product does bring in a lot of alternative feeds, and of course the value therein to the stakeholder.
One of the things that maybe is not really known in our industry, but certainly out with our industry, is convergence. And everybody wants to converge technologies into one. So they want to use a camera to do multiple things. They want it for security, they want it for people counting, they want it for retail management. And we have a lot of business in the airport world, and the airports are really driving convergence, probably leading that kind of charge. And one of the reasons for that is they install more and more cameras in airports. They need more and more monitors, so they need more and more guards. So that's an unsustainable way forward. So they have to look at ways using that technology to automatically notify them of things that's happening. So, but they also want to use the same technology as a marketing tool to generate how many people and what they're doing in the duty free. So they're looking at converging all that information into one basic platform to manage a whole airport, from people walking in the door to they go on the plane at the other end. And we're heavily looking at that and how we can work with airports to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you say is absolutely right, Chris. I think the problem that you've got is that, and I think Dan touched on it, is that you get people that, and the master of my kingdom, this is my budget, and you've also got to appreciate in large organisations, it can, decisions by committee protract things. People just want to get things done. and quite often it's disjointed. So rather than CCTV, if we're talking specifically about CCTV as a discipline, rather than being seen as part of a broader technology solution, it's quite often looked at in isolation. But I think the time's coming rapidly. You know, people are joining up the dots, and they appreciate that security is just one aspect. We've been preaching the mantra for years about, you know, it's a video management solution. It's how you need to be thinking about this. And now with very good algorithms that are out there that can do all sorts of incredible things, the value add on good quality video is incredible, and people are catching up with it, but it is still frustrating at the moment.
Well, I agree with that. We're investing right now in our sales professionalism just to make sure we have got to focus on some of our bigger end user customers, but also target accounts, and we are definitely trying to go in at the C-suite, and we're trying to go with a business value message about the value of video, not talking about the security side of things, but just, you know, if you can use it to analyse the movement of people or goods, then probably something you could do to improve your business efficiency. So yeah, we're definitely doing that. We've invested in that. We've been successful in retail as a sector, where we're targeting, I suppose, the marketing C-suite, use that phrase, as the entry point to kind of get that interest about we're doing something different and we can help you. And the video that you're recording on a daily basis everywhere is actually of great value to you, whereas typically it's just been overwritten every 30, 31 days. And we're trying to look at how do we bring that to the attention of people who may have access to incremental budgets, but probably more importantly have access to, you know, they're the people who are changing the way their company operates, and they're interested in new ways of doing things, and saying driving change. So we'd like to be part of that.
You're right. It is a driving change. It's not just, well, we're looking at the security aspects. This is what else we can offer. And for your commercial side, you're able to analyse the movement of people. So you're really having a lot of the company, and you're not just targeting security. Other parts of the company can actually piggyback on security, or security can now piggyback on the commercial side. Mm-hmm. So it's a better understanding.
I think there's as a migration, there are still issues with the installer integrators, who are effectively the incumbents in a lot of situations, not having the confidence. First of all, it's taken them a lot of time to have the confidence to start talking about putting CCTV onto a network and talking to different people. I think taking a commercial opportunity to an even higher level was probably going to be largely either beyond their ability or scare them witless. And maybe we need another layer, if you like, of consultant stroke integrator who can fill that gap and say, well, actually no, we'll look at the commercial value in your business, and that effectively another pair of eyes or several pairs of eyes.
Yeah,
and then, as you say, put it on the boardroom table and say, okay, this is where we're going. And I'm sure that there's been parallels in other technologies which have appeared to be sort of single-faceted, if you like, and then suddenly the penny drops, and then the whole world and your wife wants to have a go, and then the level of buy-in increases, the level of awareness increases, and the educational process which is involved is within the industry or within the stakeholder industries, as opposed to trying to feed it up through our industry itself. And the political will, which of course is another issue about not in my backyard scenarios. And I think the political will within the stakeholder organisations are going to probably drive it more so than anything else.
Yeah. Certainly within 360, fantastic area and opportunity there, because if you go to a security person, they're going to say, oh, well, my purse strings, it's really hard. But with having a multi-area of maybe health and safety and with the commercial selling side, you actually say, well, actually, it's not, because you're getting a bigger return on investment, because from the security you can piggyback and you can analyse movements. So it's way how you present it But by presenting, you know, I used to be a principal advisor in security in the United Kingdom, one of 10, but it's the way you present it to the C-suite. And if you present it that it's going to possibly have a bigger, greater return on investment because you're seeing which people want what products and where they're going within the shop, shop layouts then become an interesting factor for the commercial side.
I think the comment you made about incremental budget, I think incremental decision making is important as well, because sometimes you get to a situation where the proposition is so great that nobody's willing to take it on because it's just, you know, it's just too big for them to contemplate. Whereas when you've got an incremental sale, effectively, so you go in with maybe a security scenario, then introduce additional possibilities, functions from the same technology that you're installing, and introduce that, you gain loyalty, you have an entirely different relationship with your client, but the proposition isn't so massive that it scares the living daylights out of them.
Something I've started to see a bit of a trend on as well is the change in the skill sets within the industry. You know, the days of a couple of guys who were good at putting BNCs on a bit of coax and were very neat and tidy engineers are kind of been replaced by proper structured cabling engineers and people who understand networks fully. I'll use an example of an installer I was with a week or 10 days ago. They've created a role, they've got a guy whose background is computer science. So his job is an applications manager is his job title, and he sits between the sales guy who designs the security system. We'll just touch on security now, forget the other benefits of it, and the installation teams. And so he's there to consider throughput, network requirements, storage space in the rack, power consumption, BTU rates, air conditioning, all these types of things that he sits in there. Now, because he's come from that background, he's a lot more open to start talking with other disciplines, whether it's access control coming into it, whether it's intruder, software analytics, whatever. You know, there is a trend that certainly the more switched on integrators out there are embracing the right type of people within their business to allow them to have these other conversations. Because, you know, if I've also got my salesman's hat on, and if I was working in an integrator, if I didn't have the belief in my team behind me, I wouldn't be having a conversation about, well, I can put this security system in for you, but you can use it for X, Y, and Z as well. So I think there's a whole range of different things that people need to consider, and it will happen, but it's just education.
You're right, education, and it's also, as you nearly alluded to, security can become the business enabler.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I teach security, and in doing so, with having the multidisciplinary background, it's easy to see where pitfalls have happened, but there's more and more people coming through and getting professionally qualified in security. It was like the old days of the security night watchman huddled over a brazier. Well, that's gone, and we've now, you know, then you have the military person coming on, or the senior police officer, and now you've got the hybrid, which is the ones that have been maybe the military or the police, who's now academically qualified, and so they're able to communicate over a wide range of areas.
Yeah.
But there you go, that's the feelings.
Any other comments on that subject before we move on? Right. Yes, sir.
Just actually continuing the previous discussion, and the discussion went into technical fields as well. So maybe a bit provocative, but the name of the user group is IP user group. Mm-hmm. So, and in your presentation you mentioned that IP is actually the integration layer which enables to connect all different application systems together. But at the same time, you probably know that with new video standards, there is a lot more data that needs to be sent through. And there is now a debate, an argument that probably IP is not the best technology to use for that purpose. There are some protocols which do not use IP, they are apparently like 100 times more efficient to send big files, for example, for replication or transmit video. So in your opinion, will IP stay along? Especially, for example, VMS guys, you know that sometimes it's a bottleneck.
If we start to think back where we were, you know, at the turn of the century, everybody was talking about IP was going to be this thing that's not really going to take on. You know, analog is going to be here to stay, and we've slowly, over the last years, migrated from the analog world to the IP world, and the real benefit of that has been the higher quality images. Now, there's going to be a point when there'll be something new comes along, and it may be Firewire or Spacewire, whatever way it comes across, and then there'll be a lot of issues about going there because people won't have the skills, won't have the knowledge to go there. We're probably going to get there a lot sooner than we think, but I'll probably be, you know, pushing up daisies by then. But because as the camera technology is getting bigger and bigger, we're talking about 12, 20 megapixel cameras, 4K, and all the rest of it. That's just going to take more and more bandwidth than what's available. So they'll have to look at things that's going to be taking that on, and I'm sure there'll be clever boffins somewhere doing that. But for me, I still think that there's a long way in the IP world before we get to that saturation point.
Yeah, and I think all I would add to that is that I think at the moment we're kind of, you know, a lot of the big projects at the moment, certainly from my perspective, you've got people that are trailblazing. They're in unknown territory, and they're learning about the limitations of streaming HD video over IP. I actually had a very interesting conversation with a gentleman just in the other room about you know, what it comes down to is operational requirements. We sometimes lose sight of that. You know, we kind of get seduced by the latest tech, you know, and you know, and you shouldn't. You know, you should always think, what do we need to do here? You know, you need to kind of baseline it. And the conversation I was having was that really, a lot of applications you could store the HD video at the edge device. We do it now. You know, we're not the only ones that do it. Lots of products have onboard recording, and actually transmit D1. You know, or 720. You know, there's lots of options there to get around bottleneck situations. But bottleneck situations, by the way, shouldn't happen. You know, you've got a badly designed, you know, backhaul scenario there. If you're having problems with bottlenecks, you know, as Dan touched on there, you know, the industry's playing catch up at the moment. So there's lots of examples out there, installations out there, where people, end users, aren't completely happy with the actual system that they've got. You know, they're underwhelmed, because the perception is, if you go in and you say this is HD video, people think about they're watching a movie at home in the living room, and they've got this wonderful movie in HD. That's what they think. And so you give them a little bit of jitter, you give them a little bit of video tearing or a pan-tilt zoom camera, and it's almost like the world is about to end. You know, it really niggles people, it bugs people. And so, but I don't see that being a long-term problem, because I think, you know, the lessons learned from some of these big projects I've been involved in, and we're beating this into our customers in a nice way, that you've got to get serious about the network architecture. You've got to use managed switches where you can. You've got to understand. You've got to try and get away from RF, okay, if you can, because I'm sorry to say there's no guarantee with RF from hour to hour that you're going to get consistent video. And we all know the reasons why that occurs. So I personally think there's a long life for IP. I don't think, you know, the days of having to transmit 4K, I just don't think you need it. I just do not think you need it. I think there's going to be more emphasis on edge recording and transmitting over lower bandwidths, in actual fact, rather than the other way around, is my view.
Mike, do you have a...
I pretty much agree with yourself. I think IP, I've come from an IP background, and I say that you can ship things around the UK, around the world, in real time. That you've been able to do that for 20 years. IP is here to stay. IPv6 extends the numbering scheme for the Internet of Things. It's only the cost of the bandwidth that creates problems, but there's no reason why you can't centralise absolutely everything today. All the big banks run everything globally. Have 2 or 3 data centres. Video could easily be added to that. It's literally just a case of you just need the bandwidth to do it. The local campus environment can ship 10 gigabits a second without even thinking about it in real time. So I think the answer is, yeah, all these networks are in place. They just need to be configured correctly and used correctly. And then, then you've got the backhaul issue. In the, if you look at retail, the big problem we have is most of these companies have very, very slow broadband connections to their stores, and they're trickling information back. And actually what they need to do is realise this is a business critical environment, pay for the right capability, but then you'll get the benefit by being able to analyse this stuff in real time. So there's a long answer to say, yes, I agree. So, and I also think that, I do think IP is here to stay, but it'd be interesting to see what happens when the Internet of Things kicks off and there's billions or trillions of connected devices out there. So that may change the way we kind of connect these all together. But there's some really smart people producing some really smart technology. We've obviously just got to learn about it and work out how does it apply to the elements we do. So.
From my perspective, I think if I had a crystal ball and knew what was coming next, I'd be in California getting some sun. But for the time being, I know what there is, and from what is available, I think, same drums I was beating out of education. If people understand what their limitations are when they're designing a system, then they can make a very effective solution. But that's without going over other ground. That's my view of it.
Well, we've got a gentleman from Comstore sitting over there. We were having a similar conversation to this earlier on. What's your opinion of the question that was raised?
It's an interesting one, but I think IP, especially within the security side, isn't going to be a problem. I mean, you look at some of the more commercial data centres and some of the core IT structures, they're shifting trillions of bits of data. They would just need to start deploying that to, the security side of things, and,
But they have a problem, as a matter of fact. Those data centers, when they shift trillions of data, as you say, sometimes replication of petabytes may take days of continuous network connection, which is not acceptable normally if you want to be quick and efficient and etc. So therefore, there are already in laboratories smart guys invented those like peer-to-peer connections which remove that IP overhead, and therefore it's kind of 100 times faster. So therefore, that's what I'm saying. If there are 4K cameras and the volume of data will grow exponentially, then we may face this challenge not maybe 20 years later, maybe 2 years later from now.
Right.
Interesting. But it's whether the technology leads or follows, isn't it? I suppose I'm in agreement really with Adrian in the fact that 4K, 7K cameras, is that just too much too soon? Ultimately, okay, in certain very specific environments, but in general terms, is it too much too soon? And then everything that comes with it.
I'd like to say our IT department, we keep saying how more cameras going to keep throwing on the systems, and they just keep throwing them on, no problem. Doesn't matter. They just put more fibre in.
Yeah, as long as you understand what your infrastructure is.
Yeah. And
don't exceed those limitations. Most people are running minimum of gigabit networks these days. In reality, you can be very efficient with your network design. We run IP fundamental training courses as part of our operation. So when our installers are out there designing systems, then they can say, well, actually, we're going to install our own system to look after our well, call it CCTV, so obviously more than it, but IP surveillance call it, ourselves, or we're going to give a design to the people who look after the network and said this is what we expect. You know, we've got equipment that will run on a unicast network, we've got equipment that will run on a multicast network, so we can tailor our design to be efficient with what is already there. Where it's going next, I have no idea.
But if you look at the resolution, for example, of cameras, the first megapixel cameras appeared, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, everybody finds users for 12 megapixel, some promote 50 megapixel cameras.
Yeah.
So 10 years from 1 to 50, next 10 years from 50 to 500.
Absolutely. Yeah, there will be, again, if I'm a crystal ball, I'll give you a nice answer, but I do deal with what we've got right now and, you know, a little bit in the future, and we can understand what we've got, design it effectively, and kind of give people, you know, a clue of where we're going to be in the next 3, 5, 8, 10 years, whatever it might be. But yeah, you know, what happens next, I don't know.
What comes back to operational requirements?
Correct.
You mentioned earlier. Do you
Correct.
need a 50 megapixel camera?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
But welcome back to the education part. Before, nobody knew about megapixel. Now, if you educate that you can do this, this and that, then yeah, at some point in time, people will say, okay, I want to buy that something brand new.
Going back to what Adrian said of operational requirements, how many of the panel has done an operational requirement level 1, level 2?
Somebody?
I think I'm missing the actual question. So,
How many of the panel,
yeah, I understand what you're pointing at, but
who has undertaken an operational level 1 and level 2 requirements?
as defined by who?
Well, there is a format you go through of an operational level 1 that leads you on to an operational level 2.
Okay, not me.
No? Okay. It's just Adrian mentioned going back to ORs, and that's a fundamental piece. There's a story of a person who decided, I want CCTV cameras to be colour right round a perimeter fence.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And he said, make it safe. Well, they didn't go through a level 1 requirement, and his understanding of colour at night wasn't there. So when it didn't show the colour, he said, but I wanted colour. Yeah, but you didn't say anything about the lighting to go along with the cameras to give you a minimum of 10 lux to get the quality of camera picture back in colour. So it's going back to, we may have all this sophisticated equipment and knowledge, but it comes back to a fundamental of an operational level requirement, bringing in the correct stakeholders and providing the customer with the correct solution to the problem.
Okay, so perhaps up in a different set of jargon or criteria, or however you want a description. Yeah, I think we'll probably do this on a regular basis. But maybe that points towards a different problem. Is it Dave? I can't think of his surname, who did the first sort of introductory speech this morning. He was talking about standards. You know, we've got standards in the UK, we've got standards in Europe, we've got standards in the States. They're all over the place in this industry, in my opinion. You know, and do people actually pay any attention to them when they're written? You know, it's all very subjective. Perhaps someone needs to get hold of the tree and give it a shake and tidy that up. But you know, I think we're doing it, but just in a different or roundabout way. There's no consistency. You know, I'm not going to. You know, I meet a lot of installers, and some are very capable, and some aren't. And there's all sorts of in between. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps or doesn't help.
No, it was just like picking up on Adrian's point saying about, you know, operational requirements.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions from the floor? No? Well, I think we've had quite a good run actually, so I think we'll call it a day. Thanks very much for coming along and staying after lunch, and drive home carefully. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.